Hello, dear students. Welcome back to another interesting session. In today's session, which is for Class 10 English, we're going to look at a lesson titled A Letter to God. It's written by G.L. Fuentes. Now, this lesson is about Lencho, a hard-working farmer who faces a devastating loss when a hailstone destroys his crops. Filled with faith, he writes a letter to God asking for 100 pesos to survive. What happens next shows the power of faith and human kindness. So before we start with the lesson, let's know something about its writer. Its writer, as I told you, is G.L. Fuentes. He is a Mexican author and journalist who was born in 1895 and died in 1966. G.L. Fuentes is known for his realistic stories based on rural life and social issues. A Letter to God is one of his most famous short stories. Now, the important characters of this lesson is Lencho. Now, Lencho is portrayed as a hard-working, hopeful, and deeply religious farmer. Despite his limited education, he knows how to write, which reflects his determination and resourcefulness. His faith in God is absolute and unshakable even in the face of adversity. The second important character is a postmaster who is kind and generous. He takes it upon himself to preserve Lencho's faith in God by collecting money for him. His actions reflect human kindness and selflessness, even though they go unrecognized by Lencho. The third important character is the post office employees who help the postmaster in collecting pesos for Lencho. Now let's look at the story. Now this story talks about the theme of faith and hope in the face of adversity. It also highlights the blind faith of the poor farmer, that is Lencho. It is Lencho's unwavering belief in divine intervention which drives the story forward. It also explores human nature and irony. Now let's look at a summary of the lesson. I've divided this lesson into 4 parts. So let's look at it one by one. Now Lencho's house is on a hill surrounded by fields. He hopes for rain to support his crops. Rain comes but turns into a destructive hailstone. Crops are completely ruined. Our Lencho, in his desperate state, writes a letter to God asking for 100 pesos. He posts the letter with complete faith that God will send him money. The letter is received by the postmaster, who is touched by Lencho's faith, and he decides to help him by collecting money. The postmaster manages to collect just 70 pesos as against 100 pesos that were asked by Lencho. He sends the money with a letter signed God. Lencho receives the letter. He is not at all surprised. However, he gets angry as he sees that he has received only 70 pesos. At this juncture, Lencho, in his angry mood, writes another letter to God as he thinks that the money has come from God. He believes the post office employees stole part of it. Now here comes the irony. The central irony lies in Lencho's reaction to receiving the money. Instead of being grateful, he accuses the post office employees who actually helped him of dishonesty. This irony underscores the contrast between Lencho's blind faith in God and his mistrust of fellow humans. Now, what are the themes that are explored in this story? The story talks about Lencho's unshakable faith in God. It also talks about the post office employees who demonstrate the power of empathy and generosity through human kindness. The third theme is the portrayal of trust and betrayal. Lencho's mistrust towards those who helped him highlights how blind faith can sometimes lead to misjudgment. The writer has used symbolism to drive forward the story. He has used a symbol of rain and hailstorm to describe the unpredictable nature. The hailstones symbolize destruction and loss, while the letter to God represents hope and faith amidst despair. The money that is sent through the post office is a symbol of silent generosity, of human compassion disguised as divine intervention. There's also conflict in the story. The first is between man versus nature. The hailstone destroys Lencho's crops, leaving him helpless and desperate. The second conflict is between man versus man. Lencho's accusation against the postal workers create a conflict between his perception of humanity and their actual intention. Now, what does the story teach us? It talks about true faith, how it can inspire great acts of kindness. It tells us that even small acts of generosity can make a big difference. It even inspires us to recognize and appreciate human goodness. The lesson finally conveys that faith can give strength in difficult times, but it is equally important to trust and appreciate the kindness of others. The story highlights the value of generosity, empathy, and hope, teaching us to believe in humanity alongside our faith in God. Now, here are some important questions that the students can prepare. How does Lencho's faith drive the plot of the story? Discuss the role of nature in a letter to God and how it affects Lencho's life. Explain how irony is used in the lesson to enhance its message. Analyze how a letter to God portrays generosity through the character of the postmaster. So children can prepare these questions. They may come as a 6-mark question. So thank you all for watching this video. I hope you got a clear-cut picture of this lesson and the various points that you need to focus on. Hence, a letter to God again helps us to reflect on the power of faith and the goodness in people. So let's continue to have faith in the goodness of others and live our life to the fullest. Thank you all once again.